Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bilikis. You're welcome to today's class, which will be on how to make a long designer kimono top, or you could even make it into a dress, and I'll be designing it. That's why I have two fabrics here. This is an organza, which will be used for the main top, while this will be used just to design it, which is going to come out so lovely. So before we get started, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe and make sure you follow me on Instagram, Bilikis Signatures, and on Facebook, Sewing Innovations. Those interested in the sewing tools and the online classes which we have every month, you will need to contact us with the number in the description box below and also in the comment section. So let's quickly go over to the work table and get done with this. The fabric I'll be working with, the main top will be the organza fabric, so you can make use of any organza, color of organza you have at home, but this is what I have. And then this will be used to design the lower part, the sleeve, and then the front area. You can use any type of plain material, any type of fabric at all will be good for that, but I just had to do with what I have for now due to the lockdown. So I should have drafted directly on the organza, but the chalk will just go straight down on the paper, on the table. So that is why I want to draft it on my pattern paper. So let's quickly do that. I'm going to explain the markings I have now on my paper. First, you need your vertical measurement along your body. If you've been following me for a long time, you should be able to take your accurate body measurement at this stage. This is the shoulder line, and because it is a kimono top, you will have seam allowance to the shoulder area because you'll be sewing it up at that area, meaning all your vertical measurements should have extra half an inch for that. Now, starting with my waist measurement, you might be wondering, I do not have half of my armhole. That is not necessary for this top. So just your vertical shoulder measurement. Mine is 16.5. but I'm going to make it 17 due to the upper part. Going to my hip, it is 24, and I'm just going to keep it at that. Then the hem of the top, which is 45 inches. Then because I need to hem it with half an inch to the other fabric, that will make it 45.5. So now let's focus on this upper part. Starting on the shoulder line now, first I'm going to mark 3 inches, that's for the shoulder slope. Then you need to measure from your center back, from the bone at your back to somewhere around your arm to know the length you will want your sleeve to be. So from the bone at your back, you just run it across your shoulder, then to where you want your sleeve to be. For me, it is 17 inches. So that's 17. For the slope now, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. 2 to 2.5 is fine. On that slope, I'm now going to mark whatever I have. So this is the 3 inches. Then from there, 17 inches, which is here. So we don't need this again, we are making do with this. From this point, the 17 inches point, I'm going to come down by 10 to 11 inches, depending on if you are a small size, a plus size, that totally depends on you. But for me, I'll make use of 10 to 11 is fine, so I'll just make use of 11 due to the seam allowance. So from that point now, I'm going to come in by 1.5 to 2 inches. So depending on what you want. So let me just make it 2 inches. So now, this is the point needed. We won't make use of this. We'll be making use of this one because it needs to be slanted. Going over to the waist, because this is the waistline and this is the hip line. My waist is 36 inches in circumference, so I'm going to divide that by 4, which will give me 9 inches. Because I want it to be free, I'll add extra 2 inches to that 9 inches to make it 11. or you could just add 1.5. So that's what I have. So I'm just going to make a curve from here down to this point. You could use your free hand, but I will use a curve. I'll be making use of my pant curve to curve this area now. Just make the adjustments. So we are done with this upper part. Let's quickly talk about the neckline before we move downward. So for my neckline, it depends on how high or low you want it to be. You could have a boat neck. For instance, if I want a boat neck, that would be 5 inches by 3 inches for me. I want it to be a little bit lower at the front level, so I'm going to make use of 4.5 in width. So 4.5 is 4.5. So that will be at this point. Then for the depth, I'm going to make it 3.5. And I'm going to connect it. Yeah, I think I'm satisfied with what I have now. So now we can move to the lower part. To the hip area, you could insert your hip measurements, but you might not. My hip circumference is 45 inches. So when I divide that by 4, I'll have 11.25. So that 11.25 now, I'll add extra 5 inches to that for the hem. Extra 5 inches to 11.25. Let me assume 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 16 inches plus the quarter. That's 16.25. So I'll just come to the hem here to insert that. And I'm going to take my 1 meter ruler. With my 1 meter ruler, I can connect this just from the waist, except you want from the hip. So it's going to have a belt, and then we are done with this. So you just curve this point a little. So this is what we have for the dress. So I'm just going to cut it all out. This is what I have, which I'm going to place on the folded organza fabric. To fold the organza fabric, all you have to do, fold once, enough to cut out 2, then twice. You see? Then I'll place the pattern on it. I've cut it all out, as you can see that. So the next thing is to cut the design. So now, without the pattern, this is what I have. Let's see that. So this is what it will look like. So let's go back to the pattern. Cut out the designs for the middle, the sleeve opening, and the lower part. So for the middle, I want the width to be 2.5 inches. This middle one will be cut on fold. So that's 2.5 divided by 2. That will give me 1.25. So I'm just going to mark 1.25 from the edge all down. So this will be cut out, which I will use to cut it out on the other fabric. Then for the lower parts, I'm going to measure all the 2.5 inches. And then you don't forget to be cutting that on fold. 2.5. So 2.5. And then I can also add my seam allowance later, 2.5. Coming to this upper part, 2.5. So we are now going to move over to the sleeve opening. Coming to this sleeve opening, initially I wanted the fabric to come outside after this 17 inches, but I'm thinking of doing it the same as the lower part, that is after joining it here, then I'm going to fold it over to this part. So that means I'm going to alter this pattern, which will affect what we have cut out before. But if you still want to use it this way, I will explain that too. So since I said I want 2.5, I'm just going to come in from here, 2.5. To the shoulder line, 2.5. Can you see? So meaning I will have to alter this point back here. Then this will be cut out, which will affect what we have cut out before. But if you don't want that, you just want it this way, that means you measure your 2.5 here, coming down to this point, just measure 2 inches. So that means this is what you'll be cutting out, this very one, including this longer version. So you just fold it in. So it depends on what you want. So you can either go for this very option and trim this part off, or maintain this red line. Cut out all those designs. So what I will do is to go with this very red one. So this is what I will be cutting out for the sleeve opening. Then I'm going to cut out the lower part here and then the middle part. I have all the patterns cut out for the design. This is for the belt. Let me set that aside. So this is for the front, the middle. So I added 1/2 inch to that, as you can see that. So when you open it up, it becomes 2.5 plus seam allowance, it becomes 3.5. So this is what we are going to have in front. Can you see that? So this is for the lower part. Make sure you cut it on fold. As you can see, I cut it out on fold. So one will be for the front and the other one will be for the back. Then this is for the sleeve. The upper part should be cut on fold too. I added seam allowance on both sides. Can you see? So that's for the sleeve. So let's start sewing it up. So let me quickly explain the belt. The length of the fabric I made use of is by 48 inches. So looking at it, this is 48 inches. Can you see that? That's even 48.5. So what I did on fold, the fabric is on fold, as you can see, and I have an interfacing, the lightest interfacing, just to make it stable, by 3 inches, because I want the actual belt to be 2.5. So extra 1/2 inch to sew it up. Then the last thing I want to do is this at the edge. I'm just going to go in by 2 inches, and then I'll have to cross it downward. So at that point, I'm just going to pin it down. So I take my scissors and cut it through. This is what the other edge is going to be. So 2 inches, yeah, that's accurate. And the last thing, I'm going to join it by this side before sewing it up. So I'm going to close it by 1/2 inch before covering it up. To start sewing it up, I'm going to start with the center piece, as you can see that. So first you can do that with your pressing iron. You fold in the 1/2 inch we left here this way, then you fold the other parts and then just sew it all around till the lower part. After that, will I attach that of the lower part, as you can see that. Let me see. So how do I attach that? This is the right side of the fabric and it's going to be like this. So all you have to do now is this. Turn it to the wrong side. While this is on the right side, make sure the right side of the fabric is facing the left side of the organza. So this is the right side now. I'm just going to match it up and then sew it up. So after attaching it now, the right side to the wrong side of the organza, then I'm going to take in 1/2 inch to left. After that, will I bring it out? So I'm going to have the wrong side here. Then I'm going to turn it upward, fold in the 1/2 inch, and then sew it all down. Can you see? So I'm going to sew it all down. So let me do these two, then we'll come back to the sleeve. This is the ones we have attached. Can you see? So I'm just going to give it a good press. This is for the back. Can you see that? So the next thing now is to join the shoulders. I've sewn the shoulders now, as you can see. I've shown the shoulders. The next thing is to fix the facing for the sleeve before we hem the neckline. What I will do is to open it up this way. So this is the shoulder. Then I'm going to take one of the sleeve facing, open it up. So we have to have something like this. So that means I'm going to turn it to this side. So right side of the fabric, this fabric facing the wrong side of the organza. So I'm going to take 1/2 inch. And you see, I'm just going to sew it to the end here, and the same thing here. You don't need to cross it. When taking the side seam, we are going to close it up. Right now I've sewn it, as you can see. So I just have to flip it over, then fold the 1/2 inch to sew it up. So I now have to flip it over to sew it up. As you can see, I'm just going to sew it all down. And you see, I finish up the sleeve. So what I'm going to do next now is to use the bias strip to turn the neckline, and then take 1/2 inch on the sides. You see, 1/2 inch on the wrong side, all down till the end of the top. So let me just finish that. It's ready now. I'll just give it a good press and place it on the mannequin for you to see how it looks. So if you want it wider, that will determine the amount of seam allowance added at the waist area. So this is the belt. So I'm just going to place it on the mannequin for you to see. Outfit we've just made, and you can see how beautiful it is. So ensure you make yours and share with us on our Facebook group, Sewing Innovations. Can you see that? It's just so wonderful. How wide you want it to be depends on the amount of allowance you had to the waist area. So you could make it a gown, just go straight to your floor length. That totally depends on you. But with this, you should be able to make any type you want. If my tutorial has been helpful, please give me a giant thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I remain your girl Bilikis.